Thank you very much, the Honorable Speaker, sir. Honorable Ministers, the Honorable Leader of the Opposition, Honorable Assistant Ministers and Members of Parliament, ladies and gentlemen. We also acknowledge the presence of the Lady Member of Parliament from the Parliament of Tasmania. I do not know whether you were there when a good friend of mine, Colonel Andy Matthews, came down to be Commander of Tasmania. We were together at the Joint Services Staff College in Canberra in 1982, and we thank Australia for their cooperation in our education and military education, and served together in the Sinai Desert, where he was chief of the liaison officers, military liaison officers in the observer group that was deployed in support of the MFO, the Multinational Force of Observers. Small world, made even smaller by international corporations that we have benefited from through policies and arrangements by our predecessors in government, and what we do now will also be felt by the people and future governments of this country. Honorable Speaker, sir, honorable members of Parliament and fellow citizens, I rise to contribute to the budget debate for the 2026 and 2027 national budget. I do so with humility, confidence in our people, and a clear sense of responsibility that is upon us. The responsibility is upon each of us as members of this honorable House. I commend the Honorable Minister of Finance and Business Development and all those involved in the preparation of the budget that is responsible, realistic, and focused on Fiji's future. I also acknowledge the Honorable Leader of the Opposition's contribution as Opposition spokesperson or spokesmember for Finance. I thank him for his observations, but I was not prepared for his conclusion that he was not going to support the budget. This budget, Mr. Speaker, sir, carries a theme of responsible budget for a sustainable future. It means public money must be used with purpose, borrowing must be managed with care, and today's investments must strengthen the Fiji that our children will inherit. We acknowledge also the figures that were mentioned by the Honorable Leader of the Opposition, Honorable Opposition spokesman for Finance. But I was telling the Attorney General that all the figures say that, but what about what has happened on the ground? The effects of the growth in the debt figures. He did not mention the relationship to GDP, but then we can see on the ground that there have been development, Mr. Speaker, sir. In the days ahead of us, we will be debating, we'll be scrutinizing this budget as our duty demands. Not only ask that we debate with seriousness, with fairness, and respect for facts for the sake of our people. This budget is about those people, the people of a small, great nation, facing rising costs, workers seeking secure jobs, young people acquiring skills, farmers needing better roads, and the public servant, tourism workers, market vendors, and small businesses who keep Fiji moving every day. I thank the Honorable Leader of the Opposition for mentioning the contribution of small and medium enterprises to the economy and employment figures of this country. This budget, Mr. Speaker, sir, is about building a stronger Fiji together. Fiscally responsible, socially just, economically resilient, and united in purpose. Mr. Speaker, sir, Fiji's Vision 2050 is very clear. Fiji to become a high-income, resilient economy, delivering 5 to 6% growth by 2050. That's not very far ahead. It's only 4 years away. Or 24 years away. But a lot of work needs to be done. Fiji does not budget in isolation. We're a small island economy, interconnected with the rest of the world in every facet of our economy. Whatever happens around the world affects us directly and very quickly. As we experience now in energy and shipping markets, that is what is happening. Higher oil prices impact everything in the market. In recent years, we have faced shocks that no government created, but every government had to confront. Our predecessors, most of them are sitting in the opposition today, had to face the realities of the effects of COVID-19, which caused one of the deepest contractions in our history, with the economy falling by 17.2% in 2020 and 4.3% in 2021. But then Fiji recovered. But recovery alone is neither sufficient nor automatic. We must address structural challenges that continue to constrain our progress, including infrastructure, productivity gaps, cost of living pressures, workforce challenges, and emerging threats to national security and social cohesion. We have a difficult reality, but the responsible response is to protect our people where we can, while keeping Fiji on a path of discipline, growth, and resilience. Pathway to prosperity must be productivity-driven and private sector enabled. Government's role is to establish enabling conditions through sound policies, quality infrastructure, effective institutions, and a stable investment environment. While businesses, investors, workers, and communities drive innovation, employment, and economic opportunities. The Speaker, sir, responsible budgeting begins with transparency, accountability, and discipline. The budget figures presented 2 weeks ago by the Honorable Minister of Finance are serious numbers. We placed them openly before Parliament because public trust begins with openness and honesty. Faced with our current reality, government has chosen targeted, time-bound relief while maintaining discipline across the rest of government. The IMF assessed that Fiji faces no immediate risk of debt distress, providing growth and sustained and fiscal discipline is maintained. Discipline is central to this budget, and we pay respect to previous governments, including the most immediate past, for creating Fiji, for projecting Fiji as a responsible nation, a responsible debtor. We have honored our debts according to the very programs of those debts. Responsibility is about maintaining fiscal discipline while actively encouraging growth. It is spending where it matters most, protecting those most exposed, not reducing ambition, but ensuring every dollar invested delivers maximum value for our people. For that reason, government is reviewing the civil service. And I note what the Honorable Leader of the Opposition mentioned, to contain the salaries bill, tightening controls on travel, workshops, fuel and maintenance, and requiring stronger value for money reviews, driving performance. On revenue, we're widening the tax base, improving compliance, recovering arrears, and modernizing tax administration for a digital economy. The budget focuses on strengthening expenditure management, improving public sector efficiency, enhancing revenue administration, widening the economic base, and ensuring that public resources are directed towards programs that generate sustainable economic and social returns. The Speaker, sir, the cost of living and everyday expenses are not merely basic economic indicators. They are the daily experiences of families managing electricity bills, transport costs, food prices, and essential requirements. This budget places targeted relief at the center of government's response. The fuel duty concession on diesel and heavy fuel oil is extended to 31 October 2026 with a 20 cent per liter reduction on diesel and a 12 cent per liter reduction on heavy fuel oil. This supports electricity supply and helps contain wider fuel-driven costs. Without running the risk of repeating what the Minister of Finance has already presented, I say this. The budget provides targeted support to assist households through measures such as fuel duty concessions, electricity subsidies, transport assistance, zero-rated VAT on essential items, free water concessions for eligible households, and targeted duty reductions. Mr. Speaker, sir, the coalition government recognizes that lasting relief cannot come from support measures alone. Sustainable improvements in living standards must come from a strong economy that creates jobs, increases productivity, and expands opportunities. Therefore, this budget balances immediate assistance with long-term investments that strengthen economic growth and improve the well-being of all Fijians. Mr. Speaker, sir, relief is necessary, but relief alone is not a development strategy. Fiji must grow. Fiji must invest. Fiji must produce and create jobs. Investment Fiji is facilitating 254 active projects worth $8.6 billion, and the Honorable Correla Bissau is not in the House at the moment, but he mentioned this in his committee observations. That is across tourism, real estate, digital infrastructure, renewable energy, agriculture, and manufacturing. Of those, 107 are under construction and expected to become operational within 3 years, with a further 95% in advanced pre-development. Mr. Speaker, sir, a task force on investment approval process comprising ministries and agencies and headed by the Office of the Prime Minister is facilitating projects to help them start. Significant investments are currently underway with consultations and preliminary feasibility studies being carried out to determine their economic viability, structural design, and long-term benefits. These projects, Mr. Speaker, sir, include major port developments, maritime infrastructure aimed at supporting Fiji's regional maritime hub status. These mega investment projects will significantly improve trade efficiency, enhance logistics capability, and support the growth of the blue economy. This pipeline matters because jobs are created by confidence. When investors build, jobs are created across construction, tourism, agriculture, transport services, and supply chains. It is envisioned that these projects will create thousands of employment opportunities, attract billions in foreign direct investment, and greatly boost our investment to GDP ratio. These are necessary investments to inject liquidity into critical sectors across our economy. Honorable Speaker, sir, may I address the Honorable Member, Honorable Corrello Sau, while you are absent, Honorable Member, I mentioned the billions in the pipeline. Shipbuilding and marine engineering development initiatives are critical investment projects in the pipeline for our great nation. These initiatives are directly focused on creating new industrial capabilities that will subsequently strengthen Fiji's domestic maritime sector. Mr. Speaker, another critical investment is the National Tertiary Hospital Development, which represents a transformational investment in Fiji's healthcare system, specialist medical capability, and human capital development. At the heart of economic growth, tourism-related infrastructure investments, including tourism developments, airport improvements such as the proposed new international airport in Honolulu, and supporting facilities are being prioritized to strengthen Fiji's competitiveness as a leading global tourism destination. To acknowledge the input of the Honorable Deputy Prime Minister and his team in the contribution of tourism and civil aviation to the economy of the country. A stronger Fiji requires a stronger and more resilient rural economy. Agriculture remains central to food security, and we acknowledge the remarks made by the Honorable Leader of the Opposition. It remains central to exports, employment, and climate resilience. This budget reinforces government's commitment to supporting farmers, strengthening waterways, revitalizing sugar sector, and improving rural economic opportunities. I thank the honorable members of the Special Committee on Sugar for the tour of the West last week, and we asked the Minister of Sport to ensure that we get boxing refereeing certificate when we next tour. Mr. Speaker, sir, this special committee on the sugar industry toured the West, and the tour provided critical insights for us into the challenges that our sugarcane farmers are facing, challenges that this budget directly addresses through enhanced farm mechanization, targeted fertilizer subsidies, and the upgrading of critical cane access roads. Fiji must also produce more, process more, export more, and innovate more. That is why the budget supports manufacturing, commercial agriculture, digital services, and new financing platforms for small and medium enterprises. Mr. Speaker, sir, skills are equally important. Fiji faces pressures from migration of our skilled workers. Remittances are a lifeline for families and are projected to reach 1.48 billion this year. And I reiterate the words of the Honorable Leader of the Opposition, who acknowledged the contribution of our diaspora to our economy here in Fiji. And we honor those Fijians abroad. But every departure also leaves a gap at home. Government's response is to train more people and also retain more talent and mobilize the diaspora. The budget supports training institutes and extends the employment taxation scheme, including incentives for apprenticeships, work placements, and employment of persons with disabilities. The temporary reduction of the FNPF employer contribution from 10% to 8% for 12 months is interim relief to protect jobs during a period of higher costs. Employers who continue contributing up to 10% will receive a 150% tax deduction. At the same time, FNPF will declare a 9.5% annual interest rate for members for the year pending 30 June 2026, one of the strongest returns in the fund's history. While on FNPF, we're still working on the relief for those that were disadvantaged by the FNPF decree, and some of the very senior members of society then who had contributed so much to the fund are still trying to get justification. And I promise them that this Parliament will bring to Parliament issues that will address those issues. Legislation that will address those issues. Mr. Speaker, sir, development is built through roads, bridges, waterways, water systems, schools, hospitals, ports, energy networks, and digital infrastructure. This budget provides $820 million for the Ministry of Public Works, $368.8 million for the Fiji Roads Authority, and $290.6 million for Water Authority of Fiji. These allocations connect farmers to markets, communities to services, and businesses to opportunities. The budget allocates $708 million to the Ministry of Education and maintains free education grants from early childhood through secondary school. Education must provide hope, but also the skills Fiji needs: technical, digital, agricultural, health, teaching, entrepreneurship, and practical trade. And we must pay respect to the older generation of parents who paid for most of our education, honorable members who are sitting here, with very limited, little or no support from government, apart those of us who came through schools in the provinces, the provincial scholarships. The budget provides $476.9 million to the Ministry of Health and Medical Services, supporting doctors, nurses, allied workers, medicine supplies, hospitals, and health centers. It also provides $8 million towards the new National Tertiary Hospital at Walelebu in partnership with Australia. The Speaker, sir, a stronger Fiji must include a stronger rural economy. Agriculture is strategic. It affects food security, exports, rural incomes, climate resilience, and the dignity of communities that they have fed this nation for generations. I thank the Honourable Minister for Itoke Affairs and the Honourable Minister for Regional Development and Maritime and Maritime Development, Rural Area Development also, for their efforts, recently highlighted in the press and various public announcements. I thank you for the work that you're doing, and your staff, and those that are deployed into the rural areas. The budget provides $221 million for agriculture and waterways, and maintains $96.3 million in support for the sugar industry, including weedicide and fertilizer subsidies, and sugar stabilization fund, cane access roads, and direct support to farmers. These were also highlighted by the Special Committee on the Sugar Industry during our tour of the West last week. Fiji must produce more of what it consumes. We need stronger links from farm to market, better storage, better processing, better finance, and closer links between agriculture, tourism, retail, and exports. Rural development must also integrate agriculture, infrastructure, water management, and disaster resilience. I also encourage our local producers to produce the quality that are required by international visitors who come and populate our hotels right through the years. Mr. Speaker, sir, national development must ensure that every community participates meaningfully in growth. For Fiji, this includes mainstreaming Itoke participation in socio-economic development. As custodians of the largest land and cultural assets, Itoke communities must be empowered to translate ownership into sustainable economic opportunities, employment, and prosperity for future generations. We have asked our subcommittee on legislation to speed up legislation that will incorporate UNDRIP, United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples, as well as ILO 169, into the various legislations to bring into effect the purposes of those declarations. This budget, Mr. Speaker, sir, introduces tax incentives for companies with at least 30% Itoke shareholding, investing in ecotourism, culture and arts businesses. It provides a 7-year tax holiday for investment between $5 million and $10 million, and 13-year tax holidays for investments above that threshold. This is more than a tax measure. It is a statement of the direction. Indigenous participation must be built into national development, not treated as an afterthought. When Itoke communities are economically stronger, Fiji is stronger. When landowners become entrepreneurs, the tax base grows. When cultural assets are developed respectfully, tourism becomes richer and confidence grows at home. Mr. Speaker, sir, the present fuel pressure reminds us that Fiji must reduce its dependence on imported energy over time. I also acknowledge the contribution from the honourable leaders of the opposition in this matter. This budget extends accelerated depreciation incentives for fuel and gas storage, and for the first time for electric vehicle charging stations. These are practical steps towards energy security and cleaner transport. Climate resilience must remain central to national planning. Cyclones, floods, coastal erosion, and saltwater intrusion affect our homes, farms, schools, roads, water systems, and health facilities. Our blue economy must continue to protect reefs, our fisheries, coastal communities, and maritime resources while creating sustainable opportunities. A modern economy also needs modern government. The Business Now platform will reduce delays for entrepreneurs and investors, while new incentives for peer-to-peer lending and equity crowdfunding will open financing channels for small businesses. Public safety is equally important. The budget supports duty reductions on surveillance cameras for Suvarnasori CCTV corridor and provides additional funding for specialized police drug operations. The drug threat, as also mentioned, requires reinforcement, and also enforcement and international cooperation. We need to enhance our rehabilitation and partnership with families, churches, schools, traditional leaders, and communities in the fight against drugs. Faced with the current challenges, the budget provides the platform and discipline to grow the economy. We are doing this on a real-time basis with mega projects. Further, Mr. Speaker, sir, last week Fiji and Australia signed the Valley Union and the Ocean of Peace Alliance. These are two transformative agreements that will usher Fiji into a new realm of immense impact in the next century as a start. This is about credibility, trust, and responsibility. The economic pillar of the Union focuses on building the economic structure, and this is profound and lasting. The agreed 10-year work plan in health, in education, in infrastructure, in law enforcement, in defense, in environment, in digitalization, and governance are encompassed in that. Ministries and sectors are now busy to reach the proposed project readiness stage. Mr. Speaker, sir, all talk about investment, tourism, and economic growth, stability, human rights, and a lot exist in a space. That space depends on one single component, and that I call it our vital ground as a nation. That is democracy. This coalition has and will continue to protect and promote democracy and the freedom and dignity of every individual citizen of this country. This is integral to stability, to confidence, to attracting investors, to sustaining businesses, to providing opportunities for our people, to building futures. On this platform of democracy, we build our shared future. The work of our Constitutional Review Commission and Truth and Reconciliation Commission are integral to that. Mr. Speaker, sir, honorable members, Fiji has faced hard times before. Each time, our people have shown resilience. But we must also plan, reform, invest, and act with discipline. This is what the government is doing in this budget. The 2026-2027 national budget recognizes that the road ahead will not be easy. It sees the world as it is, projects people where needed, or protects people where needed, where it is needed, and reforms where government must do better. We always try and improve on what we received. It is a budget for discipline, as we must learn to live within our means. It is also compassionate, because families should not face global shocks alone. It is for growth, because jobs and investment are the foundation of lasting prosperity. It is for fairness, because the tax system must protect those with less and ask more of those with greater capacity. To all our citizens, I say this: your government understands the pressure that you now face. We know that the cost of living is real. We know that for you, jobs matter. We know that health, education, water, roads, and safety are daily needs, and you face them daily. We know the future must be built not only for a few, but for us all. I call that together we build a stronger Fiji, one that protects its people, honors its obligations, grows its economy, strengthens its communities, and leaves no generation to carry the burden of the decisions made without care. Mr. Speaker, sir, I support the budget 2026-27 and invite participation in this debate in confidence in the future of our beloved nation. Thank you, sir.